and welcome to the FringeRX podcast. I'm Anna Strong, and I'm on a mission to find a cure for autoimmune. We talk education, healing, support, do's, don'ts, wins, and losses, all to improve our quality of life. Welcome to the people and places that are on the fringe. We are lucky to have people here today that are going to make you more aware of holistic ways that you can handle an autoimmune disease. Well, at least the symptoms. We're actually trying to teach people to be more conscious about how their body feels and the environments that they're in order to control their joyful and wonderful life. I have a great guest here that does just that, and she's going to give you some advice. Her name is Brandee Carbo. Carbo, come on down.
Hi,
hey,
how
Brandy.
are you?
Brandee, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're in New York. Tell us a little bit about your background.
So I'm in Upstate New York for the past 10 years with my wife. We moved up here just to have a quieter life because I grew up in the city, different cities. And I work from home. That was a choice I made about 10 years ago. And then about 7 years ago, because of my own situation, I got into the health and wellness niche. And I've been doing that ever since.
And you work out of the house?
Yes.
And it's the middle of winter. I don't know.
It's freezing.
People will be tuning in the middle of summer, but when we're recording this, it's in the middle of winter, and it's freezing in upstate New York. Oh my gosh! But it must be beautiful.
Very cold. It's very beautiful, but the winters are long and brutal.
Who has to? I'm sorry.
We have the wind coming off the lake.
The wind. What lake are you by?
Lake Champlain.
Ooh, does it have champagne in it?
In the Adirondacks. I wish.
Who has to shovel the sidewalk?
My wife. Thank God she has a snowblower.
Those are nice. Those are nice. Okay, so what exactly are you dealing with as far as the diagnosis is concerned for an autoimmune?
So you want to just what? Right now, or
no, I want to hear whatever you've been diagnosed with. I know that you suffered for many years. How many years were you like just walking around going like, I don't feel right?
Yeah, it's been about 7 or 8 solid years.
Yeah, and it
started.
Go ahead.
I got a flu shot. I had never gotten one before, and I was convinced that it was the best thing for me to do living up here. And I went and got it against everything my intuition told me. And within a week, I was really sick. And I thought it was the shot, but going to a few doctors, they were like, no. So they put that thought out of my head, and I tested positive for Lyme's. So I was like, okay, so it wasn't the vaccine, it's Lyme's disease. But at my second follow-up, they told me it was a false positive and just left it at that. They didn't really dig further to find out, okay, what it was then. So then that doctor's office actually closed down and moved out of state. So I had to find a new doctor, which took time to get the appointment, the referrals and all of that. So by the time I got to the next doctor, it was something different. It was, what was the next one? Fibro. And then it was depression. They tried that whole thing that it was all in my head.
That's always
and then
good
I finally
to hear.
saw, yeah, exactly, the psychosomatic part of it. So I was even taking antidepressants for a while. And then it was RA and possible lupus. And then I just this year recently saw a new doctor who, by the time I got to him, I was so swollen and puffy and my memory was gone. I was just a mess. And he just by hearing me tell him what I had been through the last almost decade, he was like, I already know what this is. And he sent me right away for a blood panel and an MRI and said that it was the transverse myelitis. I think I'm saying that right. And he said right away it tracks back to my vaccine.
So he knew
He
that it
knew that
was,
right away.
wow. And that's pretty, I don't even know that one. There's over 100 different autoimmunes, but I've never heard of that one. How did he
I
know?
hadn't heard of it either. He said that from just like the paper trail I had of the symptoms and the progression, and by the time I got to him, I couldn't walk. I couldn't use my legs. They were completely numb up to my thighs. So he just knew from that symptom being added to the rest of it, and it all transpired after a vaccine. So he just knew. He said he had that feeling, and he sent me, and sure enough. But I
Did,
had
did,
had it
did
for
he
so
think
long untreated.
the vaccine triggered
Yes,
it? Yeah.
he said that right away.
Mm-mm.
And I had it for so long untreated that now there's MS as a result of that.
So I mean, I've been through my own journey, but when you weren't able to walk, I mean, were you scared to death? I mean,
Talk about depression. Now that's when I needed antidepressants.
yeah,
That was real,
yeah, you
you know?
touched base on that about the antidepressants. You know, because I went through the whole 7 stages of, you know, what I like to call the 7
Yeah,
stages of autoimmune disease, where it's the same 7 stages of grief. You know, I mean, you get
exactly.
angry, and then you get, you know, depressed, and then you get this and you get that. But they tried to put me on an antidepressant once, and I swear to God, it was awful, just awful.
It is.
And you know, people throw pharmaceuticals at you, and the list of side effects, you know, are just ridiculous. And there's better ways,
Yeah,
you know, for depression, meditation, yoga, you know,
absolutely.
talking to friends, you know, maybe
Right. And that's
therapists.
what I do now. Yeah.
What
The
do you
side
do?
effects from the meds were brutal.
Yeah.
Yoga, meditation, and I just even started the working on past trauma from your childhood.
Ooh.
They've, yeah, like the Heal documentary talks a lot about it, but now there's a new publication out. What's it called? It'll come to me. But the guy does a whole. It's so. Do you know who Louise Hay is?
No, I don't. Have you ever heard of
Sh-
Dr. Keisha? Okay, we're going to
That
compare.
name sounds familiar. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the first time that I heard about it was from her. You know, I'd already been doing all of the, you know, the fringe treatments, the holistic, this mind, body,
yeah,
soul, you know, I mean, you learn as you progress during
right,
having an autoimmune and trying to find out, you know, different ways other than
right,
pharmaceuticals that you can treat your symptoms, which is keeping the inflammation down, which, you know, you can lead a pretty normal life if you can
right.
manage the symptoms. But I talked to Dr. Keisha through doing the documentary, and she was the one, she's I believe a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist, and she was the one that first introduced me to, hey, it might be trauma, it might be, you know, PSTD, or
Yeah,
it might be, you know, events that happened in your life. And since then, I mean, and it clicked with me. It was like, I
yeah,
never thought about that before. So what was your journey?
exactly.
What?
So my research brought me to, even though this may have stemmed from a vaccine, that may be where it started, a trauma response and stress. Even like now when I get stressed, it sends me into a full-blown flare. So I knew that at some point I had to do some deep-rooted healing on past traumas because there's a many. And I know that we might not think they're bothering us, but they're there. And little
Subconsciously?
things
Yeah.
right, and little things can trigger it, smells or sounds that we don't even realize, and then we're in a full-blown flare and we don't realize that trauma or, stress just set that off. So if we can minimize that at the same time, even if it's not where it started, it still definitely plays a huge role in healing holistically.
Yeah, I think that's
For
why
me it does.
so many people, and you know, since COVID and people being forced to live with each other.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
I
just
have I have
people.
COVID anxiety.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that's why meditation works so well, is because, you
Yes.
know, you're calming yourself, and you're
Right.
you're going inwards and saying, you know, everything is going to be okay. And it's a way of kind of retraining your brain as far as how to deal with everyday stress. Stress is a big
Right.
one for me too. And sometimes, and I know I put myself through it, and I go like, oh well, I got to get things done.
Yeah.
But if I do that too long, oh, it catches up with me. And
Definitely.
that is definitely something that I believe triggered the autoimmune altogether.
Yeah.
I was exposed to black mold. I had a lot of stress going on in my life. I had toxic people, toxic, relationships, and I knocked all of that out and started changing my lifestyle. And that's when my condition and my life started getting better. So sometimes autoimmune is not a bad thing. It's something that kicks you in the balls and says, hey, take a
Exactly.
look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
Right. Exactly.
yeah, and when you moved to New York, upstate New York, what city were you living before then?
We were in the Hartford, Connecticut area,
Oh,
and then
I
we
love
lived
Hartford.
in actually, yeah, Long Island, New York for a while as well.
Okay. Did you move around a
So,
lot?
no, back and forth from Long Island to Connecticut until we came here.
Okay. Well, even though it's really cold, it must be nice up there. And
It
now,
is. It's pretty.
you're online. Are you doing? Are you? I know that you're helping a lot of other people. You're doing yoga. You're doing a lot of holistic things to help other people. How can we find you?
Probably the best way would be Instagram
Okay. What's your
at my,
Instagram address or your handle?
it's Brandee.Carbo, just like the spelling of my name. So Brandee.Carbo.
And what do you think is one of the easiest ways? Say that I was a different person and not already doing like all these crazy things. What if I was like a person who didn't have like a functional medicine person and they stumbled onto this show, and you could give them a little bit of what would change their life easiest from home.
I think so. My two biggest things and where I saw the most difference is because, and this is one of the things, is because autoimmunes can be triggered from so many different things, trauma, toxins from vaccines, toxins from the environment, toxins from the food. So for me, the biggest thing first, because I had that research, was to get the toxins out of my home. So that's actually what I help
Yeah.
people do, is convert their homes to non-toxic. Secondly, I would definitely make sure that we are getting onto a much better diet than if they're not on a good diet, if they're still eating processed foods and still eating, unhealthy junk food and stuff like that. It's got to go.
Yeah, yeah, and you're talking about not like the cleaning fluids, the
Yeah.
shampoos, the carpet.
Household cleaners are,
Yeah.
yeah, household cleaners, and there's probably about 100 of them that are sold in stores. We've been trying to get label laws changed for a while, but that's not going anywheres. Um, but there's numerous studies that I have that links them to lung cancer, to autoimmunes, to ADHD, to anxiety in children, to Asperger's. I mean, the studies are numerous. Toxins are definitely playing a role on our wellness,
Well, I
whether it
want
be
to.
from food, the cleaners, the environment.
Yeah. Well, that's something
Yeah.
that actually does take a lot of what is the effort to go through everything in your household to make sure that things are natural, they're not toxic, you're not breathing or ingesting or are getting on your
Right.
hands and it gets into your body, and it's something that you can actively have control of. So
Right. And so it's not as hard as people, it's not a big a process as people think. You can literally convert your home a little bit at a time if your budget only allows for
hmm
that. If you have a bigger budget, you can convert all at once with one package and it replaces every essential in your home. And it's still under $150 even for that way. So I think there's a misconception about that being a difficult task too. The only thing that maybe becomes a little difficult after you convert is having to check labels. But if you just convert to that, pick a brand and stay with the brand, you won't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
brand is, yeah.
is it like Myers, the Myers brand? I know that one's the big one. No,
Yeah.
but you
No,
can't
Myers
just.
has just got sued too
Oh no,
for
really?
greenwashing. Yeah, so this is why for me, and some people disagree, other people agree. For me, non-toxic is more important than natural because anything in that bottle that's being called natural isn't. It was broken down and turned into that fluid through some sort of processing.
Process,
So it's
right?
really not natural, right? So to me, non-toxic is more important than all natural.
Well, that's a great a great thing to concentrate on as
Yeah,
far as grabbing a hold and taking control of your life, and do it a little bit at a time. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars. You just do it a
right.
little bit at a time.
Yeah.
But is there anything you can also tell our audience for as far as mindset? I mean, is there something that you can inspire us with that they can take away and use today?
Yeah. When I get up in the morning, I think the first thing, the most important thing is to have yourself a little, even if it's 10 minutes, if you can have a half an hour, great. But, and before we go to bed, because how we go to bed is how we set that tone. Like if you put three things you're thankful for before you go to sleep, you're setting the tone for the next day. When you wake up, if you do the same thing and you are, pumping yourself full of positivity before you go about your day is going to go a lot better than if you're just, because we wake up kind of stiff, right? And moody. We're like, ugh, takes us a little bit to get going. And that, if you just jump up and go about your day like that, it's really going to set the wrong tone. So I try to, like, before my feet even hit the floor, to do a little bit of positive reading, maybe meditating, jotting a few things down in my gratitude journal and trying to set the tone before I even get out of bed.
That's
Because
great
mindset is
advice. That's
huge.
great advice because you know what? Sometimes it's really hard just to get out of bed. And I'm sure that's true with
Exactly.
people that don't even have an autoimmune disease. It's that
Right.
whole getting out
Yeah.
of bed. But once you do,
Yes.
but if you start it with, three positive things that can set the tone for the day, I think that's wonderful advice.
Yeah. And
And
stretch your
how can
body for 5 minutes. Get it moving. Get it warmed up before you just jump up. Even if it's just, stretching, just moving around a little bit.
right, it's kind of
Just
like
stretch a
warming
little
up the
bit.
car when it's really cold outside. You just don't take off with it, otherwise you're going to
Yes.
break down. Love it.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. How do people find you again? Tell me again.
Instagram is really, I mean, I do have an email, but Instagram is really the easiest way. And it's Brandee.Carbo, is my handle. It's Brandee.Carbo.
Love it. Well, thank you for taking time for being with us today, and
Thank you for having me.
thank you for all the wonderful advice. And I would love to invite you to come down to the set when this whole COVID thing is over, and we don't have to do this
I would
remote. You
love,
can you can bring your wonderful wife.
I would love to come down and meet you in person and enjoy some warmer weather.
Thank you, Brandy. And thank you for joining us today. Please like, share, and subscribe. Spread awareness, spread hope, spread love. Join our community and tune in next week. Stay strong and golden.